when the amendment was made from 35 feet to 10 feet for the beach, it's my understanding that the 10 feet is to use. It doesn't delineate ownership of those 10 feet to anybody. Robert, is that correct?
That's correct. I mean, there is this issue about beach ownership, which we hope to resolve by discussions with the city.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's very clear, and I've talked to the city attorney about this, that designation in the HOD does not bear on title.
Okay. Suzanne, if I may ask you, what is your interpretation of either the 35 feet or the 10 feet? Is it
with regard to the
is the city in essence acquiescing and saying that the applicant can have 10 feet or 35 feet for ownership? It's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it's just for use. It is not to delineate ownership. Do you, as the city's attorney, agree with that?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. Any other questions by the City Council? I'll go around again. Councilor Weiner, Councilor Berger, Councilor Cox, Councilor Romero-Taken. No. Joe, do you have anything else? Come on, Councilor McKeever and Councilor Berger. At this point in time, I'm going to close the public hearing and call for the committee report.
Thank you, Madam President. By leave of my fellow members of the committee, I will offer the motion approved at the May 2nd meeting, reflecting, however, the scaling back of the extent of the overlay district on the beach from 35 feet to 10, only 10. At the May 2nd, as noted just a moment ago, at the May 2nd, 2012 Planning and Development Committee meeting, it was moved to amend the Gloucester zoning ordinances by enacting section 5.25 entitled Hotel Overlay District for the parcel located at 47 Commercial Street, Assessors Map 1, Lot 33, as submitted to the City Clerk's office on May 2nd, 2012, which is attached here too, and incorporated by reference, and amend the Gloucester zoning map to create a hotel overlay district located at 47 Commercial Street, Assessors Map 1, Lot 33, in the Marine Industrial District, is shown on the plan entitled Exhibit A to accompany amendment to the Gloucester zoning ordinance hotel overlay district by Beals Associates Incorporated, dated May 8th, 2012, and I so move.
Motion made by Councilor Toby and seconded by Councilor Berger. Chair recognizes Councilor Toby as the maker of the motion.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a few points. First, I'd like to speak to the process that has been undertaken in this matter. I would argue that it has been lengthy, it has been thorough, it has looked to appropriate standards, it has surely been deliberate, and it has surely not been frenzied. When I speak of appropriate in scope and standards, I would refer the councillors, and we have an extensive document, all of which has been shared with you, of course, to the Planning Director's memo dated March 30th, 2012, wherein essentially we're given two hurdles to keep in mind as we run this course of evaluating this proposal. The first, and I'll quote, that is to be resolved, quote, is to determine the appropriateness of the proposed district allowing hotel use in this location. That's one, appropriateness in this location. Two, if you clear that hurdle, the focus, and again I quote, should be on the specifics of the permitting process and standards, parentheses, uses, density, height, parking, etc., close parentheses, and ensuring it adequately addresses project-related issues. We have the April 13th Planning Board report to the Council, and we have a follow-up work done by P&D for us this evening. I believe that P&D found that the issue of appropriateness of the use in this location was established. Again, I would refer to the memorandum from Mr. Cadamatore dated March 3rd, which lays out extensively the basis for his findings, referencing the scope of the downtown as it is traditionally understood as being much more expansive than just a narrow stretch of in effect, the Main Street area that some would contend. And looking at, as well at a medley of planning documents, many of which can be found to stand for diametrically opposed positions in their own pages, and weaving them together, and I think appropriately, in support of that finding. Additionally, having cleared that hurdle, we all moved on, Planning Board and then P&D, to engage that second hurdle, the question of the specifics of the permitting process. The Planning Board, and I want to thank Chairman Noonan and his fellow members, as well as City Solicitor Egan and Planning Director Cavatori for their hard work on this matter, came up with a set of standards. We made them tighter still at P&D, and that's what's before us this evening. They would include that setback requirement around an MI parcel and active MI use as of the date of this matter. The definitional issue, and I would note that one speaker is wrong. Not only do we define what a hotel is, but we also then go on to say what is not allowed. And specifically we note in this prohibited use section that anything not expressly allowed is prohibited. And then just to put on belts and suspenders, we add some of the things that are meant by that. Condominiums, timeshares, extended stays, casinos. We tried very hard to address the concerns that were put before us. We also at P&D looked to a number of other issues. We had extensive conversations on the beach, and I think those have been fairly summarized by both attorneys who spoke in this Q&A period just a moment ago. That the overlay, closely tailored to a minimum of 10 feet now, has no bearing on ownership of the beach. And secondly, that the question of ownership and access to the beach is fair game, very fair game for resolution, if there should be a special permit process that comes before us as a council. We discussed spot zoning, and I would refer the councilors to the April 18th minutes of the P&D meeting, where General Counsel gave a succinct, but comprehensive, nevertheless, assessment of why she felt spot zoning was not a challenge that would prevail in this matter, and I believe the committee agreed. A couple of personal perspectives. I'm only a lawyer with an MBA, Valerie. But I grew up here. My parents grew up here. My parents, each parent, had a dad who was a fishing captain and a mom who was a fisherman's wife. And I'll tell you what, the degrees that hang on the wall in my office don't include the one that matters most. 6 summers down the D-High. That's where you learn. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about this community. And it's been supplemented by years of experience as a member of this community in a variety of roles. One takeaway for me from all of that is that we need to keep in mind the historic traditions of Gloucester's economy. It is not a one-legged stool. It is a 5-legged stool historically. In the past, just as it is today. We're a seaport that is featured in varying degrees: fisheries, cargo, passenger trade, recreational activity. Secondly, we are an industrial zone. Take a drive through the Blackburn Industrial Park, hopefully soon be even more resurgent, or Pond Road, or any other number of settings in the community where active industrial activity and innovation are already moving. We are a commercial setting in the region where we live. We've always had retail activity, service activity, professional activity. We are an arts center. The creative class, I would argue, was born in Gloucester and will always be here. And last but not least, we are a tourism community featuring hospitality. Always have, always will. And one of the challenges for Gloucester, one that we've always sustained, juggling those 5 balls in the air at once, is keeping the balance. We've done that. Now, in my time on the council, which I guess goes back initially to January 1st, 1988, I can think of a couple of matters that have come forward where we were told that we had to deny an application because it would destroy the marine industrial neighbors. It was becoming an extra. One was Captain Palace Restaurant. Well, that was not only wrong, but in the aftermath of its opening its doors, we saw growth in the MI activity with the auction and all the rest of it spurred from that center opening in the late 1990s. And then Cruiseport itself, where we've seen a site that had been minimally used, largely fallow, way too long, actually become resurgent in multiple uses, getting along with its MI neighbors and having MI activity on its own very site. When I go back to my 9 years as mayor, I reflect on the fact that we had an awful lot of economic activity going on, and yet we could have done more, except for one fundamental fact: we didn't have the business quality hotel or the will to get it done that would have the conference space, the restaurant space, the lodging, that 20th century at the time, and now 21st century now, business leaders expect and deserve. And by the way, speaking of deserve, I want everyone in this room to leave here tonight with a full degree of respect for whatever line of work someone chooses to engage. There is dignity in work, whether it is as a chambermaid in a hotel, or as a Harvard professor, or anything in between or wrapped around those matters. Can we believe that? There is dignity in work. And as mayor, I had a number of occasions prior to this stint on the council to engage challenges to the fort. I could remember hosting a meeting together with the then executive director of the Chamber of Commerce and the then newly restored American Legion Old Town Hall building, where we tried to bring the neighbors and the businesses together exactly because of the problems that are spinning around this room tonight. Inadequate infrastructure, the anomalies of housing wrapped around green industrial use, part of the fort. And it then was intractable. I don't know that it's any less intractable now. I do know that we have opportunities for infrastructure improvement to come out of this, and that could be very important for the future of the fort and the community. And I would also point out that in 2001, my last year as mayor, looking ahead to the prospect of a declining economic time, which sadly proved to be accurate, I convened a revenue task force. And one of the central findings was that we had to find ways to grow our tax base, and target number one, check the records, the plan that sat on the shelf was the fort. Let's see if we couldn't be doing more there. Last but not least, and then I'll stop, Madam President. I've been back in this town for 30 years this month, and have seen an awful lot of lessons play out on how economic development happens. Really, in a sense, very simple to state. It's entrepreneurs with investment and a business plan, yielding jobs, product, wealth that is shared. We won't restore Gloucester to greatness on dreams. We will restore it on the basis of investment and entrepreneurs willing to make it. I believe we have a reasonable opportunity on this site to begin to realize that with this step this evening, the enactment of this overlay district, followed by a council working very hard to apply standards extraordinarily stringently so that the hotel, if approved, is going to coexist and work or not be approved. And I would also note, and I'll close with this, that the job cannot end there, and it cannot be a single-pronged attack. We have the land at 110 Commercial Street. The city's got to sell it, and it should be sold with the deed restriction that can only be MI. We've got the I-4C2 parcel, where work is again underway, not to take it out of the DPA, but to give one more shot, looking to the models of places like New Bedford, to put together an RFP that will leverage CEQA bond money, 108 loan monies, and get an MIU started. And then the state pier. Well, this council next week, and I hope there's many people come to see it, because this is the future, we'll hear from the real estate development director of the Mass Development Finance Agency on how we might collaborate in the future to realize renewed MI greatness on State Pier, which is 60% empty. We have challenges, we have opportunities. By moving forward with this tonight, I believe we begin to embrace opportunity.